Welcome to the key concepts for Reciproc Minima. This is a relatively new file system which derived from the original Reciproc Blue. It has a very short sequence. Often you can use a single file to shape a root canal. It's got that classical S-shaped cross-section and a regressive taper. So that means you can prepare apically, achieve the biological objectives that you like, but you can preserve some of that dentine coronally in the process too.
Absolutely, and as an evolution of the Reciproc Blue, it still allows you to treat a huge array of cases, whether they're long, whether they are calcified or curved. It's still a heat-treated file, so it still has that bit of controlled memory, but it has increased flexibility and fatigue resistance. Now, being a slightly smaller instrument than our original Reciproc Blue, it has a little bit more flexibility within its file. It comes with an array of paper points and GP cones as well to fit the whole system.
And we've got here the size 20, this is the 25, 35 and the 45. And as Lucas said, we can then dry the root canals with the paper points that match the instrument. And then we can then obturate the root canal that's dried with the matching GP cones as well. So you get a highly accurate fit with the obturation of it.
The system itself is a reciprocating system, so it's this asymmetrical movement. So it effectively does a whole lap, 360 degrees in 3 motions. It binds into dentin and then it breaks off the other way. We recommend you use it with the proprietary motors because the angles and the torques and the timings are set so that everything works as efficiently and as safely as possible.
And then we look at the sequencing here. So this can be used with a no scouting and no glide path approach. So what we're talking about here is we don't have to take a size 10 instrument into the root canal. Now, if you choose to do that, that's not a problem at all. This here, we start off with the RM20 file. So this is the Reciproc Minima size 20, and that will be taken into the root canal. You do some gentle preparation with that. And then the next stage, and we're big advocates of this, is taking a size 10 instrument. You'll see here, that's where your 20's gone. The size 10 is taken just beyond that. So why do we do that? Well, it removes little bits of debris. It ensures you haven't blocked from using your rotary instrument, and then you back that up with irrigation afterwards. And this sequence carries on, doesn't it?
Yes, and we normally advocate 3 to 4 working movements, so where the file is really engaging in the canal. So 3 to 4, come out, irrigate, size 10. The reason we don't advocate too many working passes is because reciprocating files, especially in these slightly difficult cases, will create a lot of debris. So you can block. So keep it safe, do your 3-4 working passes, irrigate size 10, and this schematic really shows you how it's a gradual coronal to apical motion. So you won't get 2 apexes straight away. It's 3-4 passes, and then repeat the sequence as you carry on.
And then the majority of cases, you'll get to the end with the RM20, and then you've got a decision to make. Is that enough, or do we need to step up? Now, most of the time, we would be looking at finishing to the Reciproc Minima size 25. That gives us a really nice shape to make sure we can get some good irrigation down there. And also, it just makes the obturation shape that little bit easier and more consistent when you're placing your GP cones. For the slightly wider canals, should they come your way, then you can look at using the size 35 or the 45, and we'll now have a look at a hands-on demo. So we're going to look at preparing a simulated root canal using the basic technique for this instrument system. We'll start off looking at the range of instruments that we've got and then run through this typodont preparation.
Absolutely. So we're going to be using a size 10 hand file, and then this is the array of files that we have, the RM20, 25, 35 and 45. So as per protocol, we're going to be starting off with the RM20 Minima, and we're using a proprietary motor for this one. So remember reciprocation. And this file really useful because you can pre-bend it before going to the canal, so it holds the shape quite nicely. So really useful for those posterior canals. So let's use this on one of these meso canals. And what I'm using here is 2 hands effectively. So we'll have a finger rest on my dominant hand, my right hand in this case, and then I will have my non-dominant hand just supporting the head of the handpiece, and all the Reciproc is going to be doing is just going to be working in the coronal part. So let's zoom in. So I'm just working really, really towards the top of the tooth.
And what we're seeing here, Luca is doing a no scouting, no hand file approach to this. So he's gone straight in with the Reciproc Minima instrument. And essentially what he's doing with this is just opening that coronal element of the root canal, removing any of that interference, so brushing a little bit more towards the furcation, away from the furcation, and just loosening the top of the canal up.
Exactly. So I had 3 bites of the file, and my hand's really feeling when it's engaging, so I can resist it. And as John was saying, I can lean a little bit more easily and brush out if I wanted, but it was quite well centered, not too much pressure, so we're just letting it lead in. Clean the file, and then we can irrigate. And you can already see where that needle is going, so we're about halfway down the canal. And we would recommend that you use your hand file just to make sure that nothing is blocking. Little curvature on the hand file and just into the canal to just make sure that nothing is blocked, still flowing nicely.
Yeah.
I'm halfway down the canal. I'm happy to still use my RM20, my 20 Minima, to go a little bit further.
Yeah. I think that little bit there with the hand file is such an underestimated part of the process, because when you're using a rotary instrument like this, any rotary instrument, in fact, you run the risk, particularly if you're working down the canal, as we are here, in blocking it, putting a bit of debris there. So just take the time, little hand instrument down, then this will flow that a little bit easier as well.
Absolutely. And from your preoperative radiograph or cone beam CT scanning, we would estimate a length. So in this case, we would have estimated about around the 22 mark. So if we get to about 20 millimeters with the Minima, that's absolutely fine. And that's what I will do, so that I'm opening up and I'm not running any risks of going further. So again, 3 biting works. I'm going 1, 2, 3. So I'm almost at the 20 millimeter mark. Clean your file. A little bit of irrigation. And again, that size 10 to just make sure everything's unblocked. It's at this stage where you're 2/3 of the canal down that I would attach my apex locator to my hand file and get a static, or we call a static apex locator reading. You can do it with these files and the integrated motor and the apex locator. We recommend that to start off with, why don't you use a hand file with an apex locator on, so you can just gauge it. So you are apex locator on, slight watch winding at the end, and you can see I'm holding the file just to squeeze it. I'm getting to the end and it's unblocking, apex locator on. At this point, you get some beeping. I've got my file coming out at the apex of the tooth, so I'm at about 23 millimeters on this nice long tooth. And at this point, I can get my 0 reading. There you go, you can just see the file. Let's estimate it at that. And I would prepare to my working length, which is 0 reading minus 0.5 millimeters. So let's see, in this case for me is 23 millimeters. Lovely. And this is set at 23 millimeters. So again, I've got my working length at 23. I'm going to do my 3 working passes. It doesn't matter if I don't get that straight away, that's absolutely fine. So I'm getting 1, 2, 3. Working hard, don't push, because you can run the risk of blocking things.
And what we're seeing here, we're seeing the benefit of the reciprocating movement. You see how it's sort of navigating around that curvature.
Beautiful.
So reciprocation really came in. It helps a slightly bigger instrument remain well centered in the root canal, respect that geometry. You see here now with that size 10, it's just really flowing as a consequence of that sequential crown down style preparation that Luke has been doing. And hopefully now with the RM20, we should be getting down to working length on this couple of passes.
So 1, 2, 3. Lovely.
You can see all the debris in here, so getting that irrigant back in again, cleaning everything. Look where the needle's going. Really are cleaning that canal superbly. But just check you haven't blocked up that apical component.
Nice and flowing. Now, this is the RM20, the Reciproc Minima 20, which is a 20 apex. Most of the cases, we would like to finish to a 25. It gives you for just a slightly better apical control, better irrigation, fluid dynamics, better retention of the obturation, and just easier to obturate. So what I've done is set my Reciproc Minima 25 at my working length, And all I'm going to do is just shape the apical portion. So let's see how it does here. Let's see if I can really zoom in.
And I think that phrase Luke has just used there, shape that apical portion, is exactly what we're doing, because we know that the diameter higher up for the RM20 and the RM25 is 0.8 millimeters. That's what we're dealing with on these instruments. So we're just finessing the apical preparation, just shaping the apex here. You'll hear it starts to engage now. You can probably feel that as well.
It just bit on that second one, and that's absolutely fine. Once I've done that shaping, you could see how slow I was going. I was really trying to control it to show you that you can control this file. And again, needle goes all the way down to the canal. Beautiful. This is a 30 gauge needle, so nothing special. Size 10 to make sure it's unblocked, flowing beautifully there. And then I'm just going to place the file so that we can have the contrast of the file on the camera. So look at that, I can almost just make it flow there. And I can even attach my apical to this file to check that I'm in the right place. So this is the very basic protocol to use Minima. No hand file to start with, a size RM20, so Reciproc Minima 20 to 2/3 of the canal. Remember, 3 working passes, and then come out irrigating size 10. And once you've got to your working length, your RM25, Reciproc Minima 25, just to finish off the apical portion.